We Talk is a production of BFAC On Air.
Welcome to We Talk, where Jenna and Dominic, talk.
Yeah, that's what we do.
We do.
We decided we are really good. Let's just start a podcast
We're just
where
going
we
to
talk.
And we'll talk to people.
We'll talk
about things.
We'll talk about things.
And
I apparently will repeat everything that he says.
That's the way of life.
That's the way of
Tis
life.
the way of life.
Tis. Okay, sorry.
You didn't like my use of tis?
Tis the way of life.
Perhaps it's because I didn't put a dialect to it.
Tis the way of life.
Tis the way of life.
Lovely.
I didn't like my eye on life very much.
Life.
I'll work on it better for next time.
Please
okay?
do.
You just judged me.
Sorry. But yes, welcome to our new little podcast.
We talk.
We talk.
We talk.
We talk about a lot of things. And today we're talking
we
about...
talk to Colin Mochrie and Asad Mecci.
Yes.
Who are stars of a show called Hypprov, which is where they combine hypnosis and improv in one show. Really interesting show where they take up 20 audience members, hypnotize them on stage, and then the best hypnotized audience members then become
part of that show.
Part of the show, the counterpart to Colin Mochrie.
Yeah.
That is just
fascinating. They are improvisers. That really is fascinating. There's a lot of interesting things that they talked about. First of all, like how, they came up with that idea, piecing it together to,
I would never, I don't know that I would have thought about that.
No.
I would have thought, here's this art form of hypnosis where we kind of shut off part of people's brain. Let's now make them an improviser.
Right.
My brain doesn't work like that, but Asad's
does. Right. So, yeah, the fact that he was able to come up with that idea and then get to it and have it now for people.
Yeah, and they talk about
great.
that when we interviewed them. They talk about how they got together as a duo to do the show.
Yeah.
I didn't know about hypnosis and the different things and elements regarding how you hypnotize them, how you know if someone is hypnotized, the physical cues, the different cues that there are in that sense.
And because they're doing a specific thing, right? Like you're doing improv. So you want your person who's hypnotized to kind of be a certain way. So there's different things that they look for in that too. And all of that really, it's like there's a science to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That I did not realize or I would have ever thought about.
There's a very specific set of guidelines, I think, for both of these skill forms.
Yes.
The improvisation and the hypnosis. And what I find really interesting is that it's the hypnosis which allows ordinary people to get to this freed state to be able to improvise with Colin.
Yeah.
And not just kind of yuck it up to a point where I'm on stage and watch me be funny.
Right.
I'm going to force you to think I'm funny. And then let me just tell you, it's not funny then. It just is not.
No. We had a great time talking to them.
We did.
And I'm excited for you to get to hear them and hear what they have to say. They were really both very nice people and just shared a lot of informative things and fun things about this show.
Absolutely. The show that they are referring to is Hypprov. It will be at the Batavia Fine Arts Center on April the 21st, and you can get tickets to that. What tickets are left right now? There's still some tickets left, but you can get tickets to that at bataviafineartscenter.org, and center is spelled C-E-N-T-R-E, the proper way.
Because we fancy.
That's right, because we're fancy. And so get your tickets there, or you can always call. The phone number is 630-937-8930. But first, we talk to Colin Mochrie and Asad Mecci. Thank you so much for taking time to be with us today. Something that we find very interesting about the two of you and the particular show that we're talking about here today, Hypprov, is these are some very specific disciplines, improvisation and hypnosis. So first of all, we're curious how you ever found yourselves getting into improv or hypnosis. Asad, can I start with you on that? How does one stumble into hypnosis?
Sure. I studied the martial arts for a long time. Meditation, visualization, self-hypnosis, they're all very much interrelated. When I was in my first year of university, one of my good friends, Ronnie Katz, went away to Hawaii over spring break. There, he was sunburned very badly. Now, he happened to be traveling with his father and his father's friend, who was a dentist who used hypnosis in his dental practice. So this dentist hypnotized Ronnie to take away the pain and the irritation associated to the sunburn. After I heard that story, I was absolutely fascinated by the subject.
Oh, that's fantastic. How old were you then?
I would have been in my early 20s.
Right.
I would have been in my first year of university.
And Colin, what about you and improvisation?
Yes, I was also in the martial arts.
Yep.
I was constantly getting beat up. So I thought, you know what? I'm just going to do something where I make up crap. It seems safer.
Yeah.
There was a dentist involved too, right?
Exactly.
Dentistry.
I saw a demonstration of it back in the last century before you guys were a thought. And at that time, nobody really knew what improv was. It was truly eye-opening for me to see, oh, these people are just taking suggestions. They're coming up with these incredible scenes. So I took a workshop, got involved, thinking, oh, this is a great way to spend weekends, doing these shows with my friends, but never thought, oh, this is what I'm going to be doing now for the rest of my life.
So I know a lot of people probably have known you from Whose Line Is It Anyway and those types of things. But do you have a preference of short form or long form improvisation? Is there one that you like more than the other? Or as long as you're improvising, you're at home?
Yeah, I really don't have a preference. I mean, they're basically the same thing. You're working with people, you're accepting their ideas. I think probably most of an improv audience is probably more familiar with the short form. Through Whose Line, which is great. It's, because it's fast paced, it's games. Long form, everyone really has to be on their toes because you're doing one long scene or one idea.
Yeah.
So everybody has to really be focused and do well. So yeah, it's, I guess I know a lot of great long form improvisers who can't do short form. It's just not. And same the other way. I'm fortunate enough to be spectacular in all forms.
Of course. Why would you not be, right? Love it. So the show Hyprov, it utilizes improvisation with audience members, so non-trained improvisers. So Asad, tell us what is important for an audience member who's going to come up onto stage and be hypnotized. Is there someone who's a better candidate for another, or when we know when an email goes out to the patrons who've picked tickets and they're going to volunteer for this type of thing, what are some good tips for the audience members or things that make them good or not the best hypnosis candidates?
So they just have to be honest and willing candidates. So when they come up on stage, they just have to listen to my instructions. And 20% of the population are really good hypnotic subjects. It's a numbers game. So that's why I bring up 20 volunteers, and then I whittle it down to the best 4 or 5 hypnotic subjects based on primarily physiological response. So changes in rate and location of respiration. So breathing changes, skin color changes, skin tonus changes. There's actually a shininess and dullness to the skin.
Interesting.
Vasodilation, so the capillaries in the eyes become engorged. So I'm looking for a checklist. If I see it, I'll keep the person on stage. If I don't, I'll remove them.
Oh.
People who are really good hypnotic subjects, generally speaking, are able to dissociate from their surroundings and get really wrapped up in, for example, a movie. So some people, when they watch a Stephen King horror flick, they'll just sit back and they'll analyze it and they'll say, you know what, it looks kind of fake there. I didn't think the acting was very good. I'll look at the bad blood pack another person will be so engrossed in what they're watching that they'll be moved to a physiological response in that they'll jump in their chair or they'll scream during a scary moment in the movie. They're the better hypnotic subjects, the people who are able to immerse themselves fully into the experience. We don't know why certain people are or are not good hypnotic subjects. We just know that there's a spectrum.
That's interesting. I'm thinking currently of like people in our vicinity who I'd be like, you would be great. You would be maybe not. So
Would you be good?
I might not be good because I analyze things a lot. I'm like, oh, I'm that person who's like, what's going on here? What's this? Why is that being done? That's interesting.
Yeah. What is something that's been challenging regarding this type of show? Has there been anything that's been a challenging effort in terms of combining the improv and hypnosis, or do you find that they just really kind of fit together? Colin, what about you performing with the hypnotized candidates?
I think the main challenge we had was right at the very beginning because we had no idea whether this was going to work. Our first time doing it was our first time doing it in front of an audience. And, I would ask Asad things and he would always say, it depends on the subject. Some hypnotic subjects are right there. Some seem maybe a little stoned in a way because their reactions are a little slower. So I thought, we're screwed. But it worked out. What happens is when Asad hypnotizes them, he removes that part of the brain literally remove.
Yeah. Surgery happens on stage.
Part of the fun. Dampens the part of the brain that deals with self-reflection. So that part of the brain that says, you know what, you can't do this, or you're going to look very silly doing this, that's gone. And so they become true improvisers. They react immediately to what Asad and I are saying without any thought. They're just reacting naturally. So it actually is easier than working with actual improvisers with ego.
Yeah. People who have their own minds where it's like, oh, you're thinking about it. These people aren't thinking about it.
Right.
That's fabulous.
They're working towards making a good scene and reacting to like a really good improviser does.
So they're in that moment with you.
I always tell Colin that if we brought up 20 volunteers who weren't hypnotized and tried to run the show, it would be an unmitigated disaster. It would be people cracking up throughout the show. Colin would be commenting or doing something funny and them just losing it on stage and the audience thinking to themselves, what the heck are we watching?
What's going on?
And then because people are hypnotized, they don't reflect on their behavior and they don't play to the audience and they don't crack up. They just carry out my suggestions without hesitation and without question. Whereas if you brought up 20 volunteers and you picked 5 of them randomly, you would have a very bizarre show that I don't know would be tourable.
That makes sense.
Because their kids are going to be audience or their friends are going to be in the audience and they want to look good for them.
And they want to play to it. Yeah.
I can be funnier than Colin, can't I? Right?
Yeah, exactly. So and they hesitate, right? First time improvisers, especially if you've never done this kind of stuff before, everybody thinks that they're so witty and on the spot they'll be able to respond immediately to Colin's comments. If you haven't trained in this stuff, it's very difficult to pull off. That's why Colin's a master at his craft, because he's able to immediately respond to a comment and be able to come back with a witty quip. Whereas the average person who thinks they're funny, they will die a horrible death.
It's interesting because I think comedy is the only thing where that happens, because everybody has a funny uncle or a funny relative and constantly going, you should have my aunt on Newsline. What she's with. There's a difference between doing it for your family in a kitchen and doing it in front of an audience who have paid money.
Yeah.
You never see, hey, my uncle thinks he can do brain surgery. You should let him into the operating theater.
He'd be great. He's played Operation. He's been really good at it.
That's right.
On television, seen stuff. Yeah.
Have you ever had any instances where you've gotten people on stage and perhaps they didn't turn out to be as great as you have thought? You're laughing already at that thought there.
I'll jump in there. So sometimes the people who are on stage are slow and sluggish and not as responsive because they are in such a deep hypnotic trance state. So as you can imagine, if you pitch people who seem like they're stoned into a comedy routine, it doesn't necessarily work out. I mean, it is funny, but not the funny in the way that we want it to be funny.
Right.
So that's why a lot of it is good casting on my behalf, because I'm looking for really highly responsive subjects, but at the same time, not subjects that are so deeply entranced that they will not be able to give Colin any material while they're hypnotized on stage. And they will, Colin, and we've had that before, where Colin essentially does all the heavy lifting. The person is just standing there pretty much and is exhibiting these deep trance signs, which would be slow and sluggish movement and muted voice. So imagine someone who's slow and sluggish and has muted voice. You can't really hear them on the mic. It's a bit of a tough night. But that being said, we've done this show over 100 times now. We've toured the show across North America. We've got it down pretty much to a science, wouldn't you say, Colin?
Yeah, and we're also coming up with, we're trying to come up with different games so that we can use the people who are sluggish and slow, perhaps in a different, maybe not a dialogue-heavy scene, but something that they can do where they can still be a part of it and still get their laughs, but more tailored towards how they are in a trance.
So you take that particular person and you fit in the game that might work best for that individual.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Exactly. Because it's interesting also, because from an audience perspective, as they're watching their uncle or their husband or their wife, they can see that this person is not functioning the way that they normally function, right? So that is funny in and of itself.
That's a different show to those people, too.
Like, wait a second, this person, we know that they're not on drugs and alcohol, but yet when they came up on stage, they look a little funny. And not funny, haha. I mean, funny as in they look kind of stoned. So it's interesting to watch not only the people on stage, but it's also funny to watch the people who are in the audience with the volunteers on stage, because they get a real kick out of the show.
Right.
Oh, that's fascinating.
Now, you had mentioned that the very first time, you've done this like over 100 times, and the very first time was like, you're not sure how it's going to start. So how did it come together? How did you decide, what?
Let's do these things
Asad
together.
and Colin are going to come together and do hypnosis and improv together, and it's going to be great.
I'll take that question.
You got it.
So I actually sent a cold email through Colin's website. Chef Andrews, Colin's longtime manager, picked up the email. In it, I outlined the show concept where I would hypnotize some people and then Colin would improvise with them, and Chef Andrews loved the show. From there, we had a quick meeting. Colin and I talked over the show, said, let's throw it up after the Second City main stage show, no rehearsal. We go out on stage. The show is a smash success. Jeff Andrews, Colin's longtime manager, again comes running backstage with dollar signs in his eyes and says, I think we have a new art form here.
So you didn't know each other prior to that cold email?
No, and it's worked out nice. I think we've formed, we've become good friends, and we have also formed a really nice, rapport on stage where we're, to be quite honest, Asad is doing more than his share of work in this show, because yes, he hypnotizes them at the beginning, but then the rest of the show is him making sure that they're still under and keeping an eye on all of them. He's also giving them suggestions for the scene that we're doing. And, I'm just doing, I don't know, my usual thing. Whatever. So it's been a really good partnership, and it's been also fun just to see how much we can do with them, how complex we can make the scenes.
Now, you've performed in multiple countries, and do you see a difference in audience type or the type of comedy between the different patrons that might come based upon where they might have grown up or where they've learned to get their entertainment from?
I haven't really noticed anything. Okay. We did the show in Edinburgh and in London. But I mean, all of the stuff we do is fairly global. I mean, it's just silly. So it's not like we're doing a specific scene about the local politics or whatever. It's all more about the human condition. That's so pretentious. And but it's not. It's more about scenes like we're going to do a proposal scene, or we're doing a scene where you're going for a job interview. So it's all things that people can relate to and have had experience with in their lives.
Those universal
experiences. We've done all walks of life too. I mean, when we were at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, it was a 10:30 show, so it drew a really young crowd. Yeah, and then the Scottish universities type students, and then we would play, some of the performing arts theaters where it's a lot older of a demographic. And people are retired and they still love the show too. So it really speaks to a wide demographic.
So here's the thing I hear the most from some of our patrons who come to an improv show like this. Is everything really made up? Or do you go on stage with an idea of, I'm going to do this kind of thing, and you let it go? I'm going to let you guys answer this type of question, because people, they have a really hard time believing that you could just go up there and all of that stuff was really made up right then and there.
Right.
It's really irritating.
So I'm sorry. I apologize for asking that question. You probably get asked that question all the time.
It's sort of a backhanded compliment, although it is weird. If it goes great, people say, well, that can't be improvised. If it sucks, people go, boy, they just made it.
Yeah, you can totally tell, can't you?
What I love about this show is there's a lot of skepticism with both hypnotism and improv.
Right.
So part of this show is us proving to people, this is improvised. Yes, they are hypnotized. And actually, if you transcribe the scenes we do and looked at them, you could not do it as a sketch like on Saturday Night Live. It's just an art form of that moment. Yeah. So also part of it, we have plants, and that costs money. Why would we take a hit financially for something we don't need? We're both really cheap and frugal. We're not going to pay for plants, and that's the fun for us. For me, the fun is working with people I don't know, making a show. And for Asad, it's putting these people under and getting, he's really power hungry. So for him, getting a group of people under his control, that's his.
He's the controlling element of this duo here. Yeah.
Now, Colin, have you ever been under hypnosis?
No, we keep talking about it. Next time we find a little window of time, Asad's going to hypnotize me.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
That would be interesting. And Asad, have you ever improvised?
Well, that's a great question. Yes, I would say that I do on stage with Colin, because every night's a different night when it comes to the people who are hypnotized on stage. You never know what you're going to get. Right. So you have to be able to take the punches, swing with the punches. So it is amazing at how diverse these people are and their backgrounds. So it's really, truly a different show every night because the people are all different.
That's fantastic.
That is. That's awesome.
I thank you both for joining us today. We appreciate your time, and this was absolutely thrilling.
Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah,
I
thanks
know
for
you
talking
didn't know
to her.
I was going to be
here.
here.
I'm surprised you were there.
Yeah, like I said, the more interesting and the better one of the two of us. Well, we will see you in just about a month, and we can't wait to have you here. And we'll talk to you more then, and we'll see some hypnotism with some improvisation at the same time.
Thanks for having us. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
It's exciting, Dominique, too. Just wanted to mention that it looks like the show's going to sell out.
Yes.
We have a really great attendance. The main floor looks packed.
Yep.
And I'm excited because I think we're going to play a sold-out house.
Yeah. So, as we sit here today, we just have a couple hundred seats left of the total house. So that's great. That's always That's great when you're coming back from a pandemic and people don't know what's going on and anything like that. So we're
I know
fortunate.
He was closing us out, but I do have another question. You'll just excuse me. Like, how has the pandemic kind of played into the shows and what you've been able to do? Has that made like a huge difference?
When we first came back, we had to follow COVID protocols, and we certainly wanted everyone who was coming up on stage to be hypnotized, to be double vaxxed. And in some cases, the theaters asked for a rapid test within the day, because we want everyone to be safe, especially us, because we have more shows. So, we've been following.
And as you already said, you're frugal, and you guys, got to get as much money.
I will tell you, the energy level, Jenna, is just through the roof now.
Yeah.
People are so excited to be back in theater, watching comedy. And the response that we're getting from the crowds have been overwhelmingly positive. Awesome. So that is the exciting thing about coming back from this pandemic. Yeah. People want to laugh. People want to have a good time. No serious stuff, just wacky stuff.
And you're giving them that great opportunity to have that and to find that outlet. So that's awesome.
And a combination between those human elements that everyone can relate to and that silly and knowing where we're coming from is just what the world needs right now. Yeah. So it's a healing mechanism, really.
That's what we're here for. We're here to heal the world.
You are doctors. You are doctors in your own right. That was a much better ending point, Jenna, anyway. So
I do what I can.
You do what you can. Great. Thank you so much. We will see you guys in a month. Thanks so much.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Once again, you can get tickets to Hipprov on April 21st at BataviaFineArtsCenter.org, and that's center spelled CENTRE.
Or you can call us, call the box office at 630-937-8930.
We thank you for joining us today as
we talk
to Colin Mochrie and Asad Mecci. We will see you next time.
We Talk is a production of BFAX on